Hey guys, tonight we are going to burrow into the earth to escape the biting cold of a world without central heating. We're stepping into the simple, yet surprisingly ingenious, home of a medieval peasant to discover how they survived winters that would send most of us scrambling for a dozen blankets and a thermal union suit. You find yourself standing on a frozen field, the wind slicing through your thin woolen tunic, and before you is not a grand house, but a low, humble dwelling that seems to grow out of the ground itself. If your idea of surviving winter involves arguing about the thermostat and wearing a slightly thicker hoodie, you might want to brace yourself. You likely wouldn't last a single night here. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I love seeing our little community of night owls and history lovers grow. So feel free to post your location and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. Your first lesson in medieval survival begins not with a roaring fire or a thick fur coat, but with a shovel. Your home is your primary defense against the killing cold, and its design starts from the ground down. Literally, you don't build your house on the land, you build it in the land. You look for a suitable spot, perhaps on a gentle, south-facing slope that will catch the low winter sun and allow for good drainage. With simple tools, perhaps a wooden shovel with an iron-shod edge, you begin to dig. This isn't the shallow trench of a garden bed. You are excavating the entire footprint of your future home, digging down 2, maybe 3 feet into the cold, dense earth. It is back-breaking, relentless work. You heave scoop after scoop of soil, stone, and clay, creating a shallow pit, a rectangular depression in the landscape. This sunken floor is the first and most important secret to your warmth. You are tapping into the geothermal energy of the planet itself. While the air temperature outside might plummet far below freezing, the Earth a few feet below the surface maintains a much more stable and constant temperature, often hovering around 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius. By sinking your home into the ground, you are wrapping it in a permanent, natural blanket, insulating your living space from the worst of the winter frost before you've even built a single wall. Once your pit is dug, the skeleton of the house is next. The frame is made of heavy timber, but you don't have access to the long, perfectly straight beams the Lord uses for his manor house. You use what is available, often employing a clever and efficient construction method known as a cruck frame. This is a well-documented and mainstream feature of peasant architecture in this era. You find 2 massive, naturally curved timbers, perhaps from an oak tree that has grown with a bend. These are split in half lengthwise, creating a matched pair. They are then raised and joined together at the peak with a peg or a simple joint, forming a great A that serves as both the roof support and the walls in one elegant, self-supporting structure. You erect several of these cruck frames in a line, connecting them with horizontal beams. This creates the basic, barn-like shape of your home, a strong and simple framework that requires a minimum of complex carpentry. Now, with the frame in place, you must create the walls. This is where the real genius of peasant engineering comes into play. You will build your walls from a composite material known as wattle and daub. First comes the wattle. You take thin, flexible branches and saplings. Hazel and willow work best, and you weave them horizontally in and out of the upright posts of your timber frame. It's like creating a giant, rough-hewn basket. The resulting lattice is surprisingly strong and creates a dense mesh that will form the core of your wall. Next comes the daub, and this is where you get your hands dirty. The recipe is not for the faint of heart. It is a carefully prepared mixture of materials, each with a specific purpose. The base is clay, which you may have to dig from a specific spot and carry back to your building site. The clay acts as the binder. To this, you add a temper, sand, soil, or even crushed chalk to reduce shrinkage and cracking as the daub dries. Then comes the reinforcement. You mix in handfuls of tough straw, dried grass, or even animal hair. These fibers act much like modern rebar in concrete, giving the daub tensile strength and holding the whole mixture together. And finally, you add the secret ingredient that makes modern noses wrinkle: manure. Fresh, wet dung from your cow or ox is kneaded into the mix. This quirky and fascinating tidbit of medieval construction served multiple purposes. The fibrous, partially digested plant matter in the manure added even more strength and bulk to the daub. The ammonia in the dung was also believed to act as a natural insecticide, discouraging termites and other boring insects from making a meal of your wooden frame. Some historical recipes even called for additions like blood or curdled milk to improve the daub's binding properties. The smell of your home is best described as ode to earthworm feet. Manure, it won't be winning any fragrance awards, but it's the smell of survival. And that's all that matters. Mixing the daub is a communal, messy affair. Water is added until the mixture becomes a thick, sticky, and profoundly smelly paste. Then, you and your family, or perhaps your neighbors helping in exchange for your future labor, begin slathering this concoction onto the wattle panels. You push it deep into the lattice from both sides, ensuring every gap is filled. The wall that takes shape is thick, heavy, and solid, often 6 to 8 inches thick. You smooth the surface as best you can with your hands or a flat piece of wood. Now, you must wait for it to dry. As it hardens, it becomes a solid, monolithic wall, a fusion of earth, wood, fiber, and dung. Your local building inspector might have a few questions about your organic insulation materials, but the performance is undeniable. Modern scientific analysis has shown that a well-made wattle and daub wall has an insulation value, or R value, surprisingly comparable to that of modern fiberglass insulation. It possesses excellent thermal mass, meaning it absorbs heat slowly and releases it slowly. In the winter, it will absorb the heat from your indoor fire and radiate it back into the room long after the embers have died down. In the summer, it will keep the interior cool by absorbing the sun's heat during the day and releasing it at night. Living in this sunken, earth-wrapped home is a unique sensory experience. It is dark inside, the roof is low, and any windows are little more than small, unglazed slits in the wall, designed to let a sliver of light in while letting as little heat out as possible. The air is cool and still, shielded from the howling wind outside. It smells perpetually of damp earth, wood smoke, and the faint, organic scent of the walls themselves. It is less like living in a house and more like living in a well-appointed cave. Archaeologists and historians debate the lifespan and maintenance of these houses. Were they temporary structures, easily abandoned and rebuilt every generation? Or were they sturdy, long-term homes that, with constant care, patching the daub where it cracked, replacing the roof thatch every few years, could last for many decades? The evidence suggests that with proper upkeep, These simple dwellings were remarkably durable. They represented a significant investment of labor and resources for your family. This home is a testament to an intimate and practical understanding of the natural world. It uses the earth's own heat, the flexibility of young wood, the binding power of clay, and the strength of straw to create a sanctuary against the elements. Before you even light a fire, the combination of the sunken floor and the thick, insulated walls ensures the temperature inside rarely drops to a life-threatening level. It is a masterpiece of thermal efficiency, built with the materials at hand and a deep, instinctual knowledge passed down through generations. You have built more than a shelter. You have built a symbiotic extension of the earth itself, a warm pocket in the frozen landscape. Your sunken, earth-sheltered home is a remarkable feat of passive insulation. It is your first line of defense, a shield that dulls the sharpest edges of the winter wind and frost. But this passive shell, on its own, only offers survival. To make this space truly livable, to turn your cold refuge into a warm home, you need an active source of heat. You need a fire. And the heart of your home, its radiant, life-giving core, is the central hearth. You move to the middle of the single, large room that constitutes your entire dwelling. There, on the packed earth floor, is a simple circle of stones, perhaps lined with clay that has been baked hard by countless previous fires. This is your hearth. It is not a grand, brick fireplace recessed into a wall with an elegant mantelpiece and a chimney soaring towards the sky. A chimney is a costly, complex piece of architecture, a luxury for the wealthy. Your home has a fantastic open-plan design with a, let's call it a natural smoke dispersal system. The central hearth is a far more ancient and, in some ways, more efficient design for heating a small space. Its position in the very center of the room allows its warmth to radiate outwards in a full 360-degree circle, warming the air, the floor, the earthen walls, and most importantly, the people huddled around it. Your first task of the day, every day, is to coax this heart back to life. You kneel before the ashes of last night's fire. The final chore before sleep was to bank the fire, carefully covering the glowing red embers with a thick layer of ash to starve them of oxygen. This allows them to smolder safely through the night, a sleeping dragon of warmth, ready to be reawakened. You gently scrape away the ash, revealing the still glowing coals. You add some dry tinder, a handful of dried moss, some birch bark shavings, or a bird's nest you found, and you blow gently. A tiny flame flickers, catches, and grows. You feed it with small twigs, then larger sticks, until you have a stable, cheerful fire crackling in the center of your home. This fire demands to be fed, and the quest for fuel is a constant, underlying rhythm of your life. The woods around your village belong to the lord of the manor, and you cannot simply chop down any tree you wish. To do so would be considered poaching, a crime with severe penalties. However, you do have certain legally recognized rights. This is the mainstream historical system of estovers, or boats. You have the right to fire boat, which is the right to gather wood for your own fuel. This is typically restricted to fallen branches, dead wood, or underbrush, whatever you can pull down with a hook or gather from the forest floor. Your winter fuel plan involves a lot of strategic wandering through the woods, hoping to find a branch that accidentally fell off a tree. It's less foraging and more opportunistic gravity assistance. Every dry branch, every fallen limb is a treasure to be hauled back to your cottage and added to the precious woodpile that stands just inside the door. In areas where wood is scarce, like in boggy moorlands, you might cut and dry bricks of peat, which burns with a slow, smoky heat. In the direst of circumstances, even dried animal dung can be used as fuel. Nothing that can burn is wasted. As the fire grows, its warmth pushes back the ever-present chill. Even when the temperature outside is well below freezing, this single, well-tended hearth can raise the indoor temperature to a surprisingly comfortable 50 or 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. It makes the difference between shivering in misery and being able to function, to work, to live. To maximize this effect, you might employ a simple but clever trick. A quirky tidbit of hearth technology is the use of a fireback. While ornate cast iron firebacks would become common in later, grander fireplaces, the principle is ancient. You place a large, flat slab of stone strategically behind one side of the fire. Throughout the day, this stone absorbs a tremendous amount of heat. It then radiates that heat back out into the room slowly and steadily, long into the night, effectively acting as a thermal battery and increasing the efficiency of your precious fuel. This hearth is far more than just your heater. It is a multi-purpose appliance, the true center of your domestic universe. Firstly, it is your kitchen, your only kitchen. Suspended over the flames from a chain or a green wood tripod is a large iron cauldron, perhaps your family's most valuable single possession. Here is where the pottage, the endless stew of grains and vegetables we've discussed before, simmers away for hours, even days. The constant, slow heat of the hearth is perfect for breaking down the tough grains and fibrous vegetables, making them digestible and releasing their nutrients. The cooking of your food and the heating of your home are one and the same process. Other cooking happens here too. You might roast turnips or onions directly in the hot embers at the edge of the fire until they are soft and sweet. You might lay a flat stone on the coals to heat it, then use it as a simple griddle to bake flatbreads from barley or oat flour. The hearth is the source of all your hot meals, its warmth infusing the food that in turn provides the internal warmth your body needs to survive. Secondly, the hearth is your social hub. As dusk falls and the slivers of daylight from your small windows fade, the world outside disappears into a cold, profound darkness. Your family's world shrinks to the circle of light and warmth cast by the fire. You and your family gather on low stools or on the straw-strewn floor around the hearth. This is where the day's labor is done. You might be mending a broken tool, the firelight glinting off the metal. Your wife might be spinning wool into yarn with a drop spindle, her hands moving rhythmically in the flickering light. The children, huddled close, might listen to an old story passed down through generations. The central hearth is your family's television, thermostat, and kitchen all rolled into one. The evening's entertainment consists of watching a log burn. Spoiler alert, it burns. Historians and anthropologists debate the social dynamics of this central space. Was the hearth a patriarchal domain, where the male head of the household always claimed the best, warmest spot, his position reinforced by the fire's symbolic importance? Or was it a more communal, even female-dominated space, given that women were primarily responsible for the endless tasks of cooking and fire tending that kept the household running? The truth is likely complex, varying from one family to the next. But it is undeniable that all life in the home revolved around this single, vital point. Living with an open fire in the middle of a home built from wood, thatch, and a mixture containing straw is, of course, incredibly dangerous. The threat of a catastrophic fire is constant. A stray spark could easily ignite the dry straw on the floor where you sleep, or fly upwards and catch in the soot-blackened thatch of the roof. You are ever vigilant, keeping a bucket of water nearby. The final act of banking the fire at night is not just about preserving the embers. It's a critical safety measure to ensure the house doesn't burn down around you as you sleep. The ever-present smoke, with no chimney to guide it, presents its own problems, filling the upper portion of the room with a hazy, acrid cloud that stings the eyes and irritates the lungs. But this smoke, as we will see, also serves a hidden purpose in the grand design of your winter survival. For now, you simply bask in the hearth's gifts. You hold your hands out to the flames, feeling the delightful warmth penetrate your cold, stiffened fingers. You watch the steam rise from the bubbling pottage, its smell promising nourishment. You see the faces of your loved ones illuminated in the warm, dancing light, their shared presence a comfort against the vast, cold darkness outside. This simple circle of stones and fire is the anchor of your existence, the beating heart of your home, and the fierce, defiant center of your fight against the winter cold. That ever-present smoke from your central hearth, which you have learned to live with, might seem like a major design flaw to a modern observer. It stings your eyes, blackens the rafters, and leaves a permanent scent of campfire on your clothes and in your hair. But in the grand, desperate calculus of your winter survival, nothing is wasted, not even the smoke. It has a job to do. In fact, it is a key component of your home's surprisingly sophisticated architectural strategy for hoarding every precious calorie of heat. Remember that natural smoke dispersal system we talked about? It turns out it's not a bug, it's a feature. You're not living in a smoky hovel. You're living in a self-insulating, pest-repelling, meat-curing, smart home. As the hot smoke and gases rise from your fire, they don't immediately escape. With no chimney to whisk them away, they collect in the upper reaches of your hut, trapped by the steep pitch of the roof. This forms a thick, hazy layer of hot air, a kind of smoky ceiling that can be several feet deep. This hot, sooty cloud acts as a remarkably effective thermal barrier, a primitive but functional form of ceiling insulation. It prevents the radiant heat from your fire from passing straight through the roof, instead trapping it in the living space below. This smoky blanket offers other benefits as well. The chemical compounds in the wood smoke, particularly creosote, permeate the thatch of your roof from the inside out. This slow, constant curing process makes the straw or reeds more resistant to rot from the endless rain and damp. It's a natural waterproofing and preservative treatment. The smoke is also a powerful pest controller. The acrid haze drives out insects, spiders, and even mice that might otherwise make a home in your roof, slowly eating away at the thatch and compromising its integrity. Furthermore, if you have a side of bacon from a recently slaughtered pig or some fish that need preserving, you can hang them high in the rafters. Here, suspended in the permanent smoky fog, they will be slowly cured and protected from flies, adding to your precious winter food stores. Of course, you can't live entirely in a thick cloud of smoke. This is where another quirky and ingenious tidbit of medieval architecture comes in: the smoke hole, or louvre. At the very peak of your roof, directly above the hearth, there might be a small, purpose-built opening. It is not a gaping hole, but often a small vent protected by a little gable, or even a clever pottery device that can be rotated with a long pole to open or close the vent. Your job is to manage this vent with care. You open it just enough to allow the worst of the dense smoke to escape, creating a breathable layer of air in the lower half of the room where you live, while still maintaining that precious insulating layer of hot, smoky air in the rafters above. It is a constant, delicate balancing act between air quality and heat retention. Every other aspect of your home's design is similarly optimized for this single purpose. Look at your windows, or rather, the lack of them. Glass is a luxury beyond your wildest dreams. Your windows are, at best, small, square openings, often no bigger than your head. They exist not to provide a view, but to admit a sliver of light while sacrificing the absolute minimum of heat. Your window has two settings: pitch black and freezing when the shutter is open, and pitch black and slightly less freezing when it's closed. Natural light is overrated when it comes with a blast of Arctic wind. These openings are often not glazed at all, but simply covered with a sliding wooden shutter or plugged with a tight bundle of straw at night. For a more advanced solution, you might have a frame stretched with a piece of translucent material. This is a mainstream historical practice known as using horn. A thin, scraped sheet of cow horn is heated and flattened, creating a cloudy, yellowish pane that allows a dim, diffused light to filter through while blocking the wind. It doesn't offer a clear view, but it's a significant upgrade from an open hole. The very volume of your house is also a strategic choice. The cruck frame construction naturally creates a low ceiling, and you make no effort to raise it. A smaller, more compact interior space contains less air and therefore requires far less fuel and energy to heat to a comfortable temperature. Wasting precious firewood to warm up a high, vaulted ceiling is an extravagance you cannot afford. The low ceiling is great for keeping heat in. It's less great if you're over 5'5". You learn very quickly to duck, a skill that also comes in handy when dealing with the local tax collector. The orientation of your entire dwelling is a deliberate calculation. As we touched on before, you build on a south-facing slope whenever possible. Your single door and any small windows are almost always placed on the south wall. This is a simple but effective use of passive solar energy. In the winter, the sun travels in a low arc across the southern sky. By facing south, your home catches these weak rays for the maximum number of hours each day. The sunlight, feeble as it is, streams through your horn-paned window, creating a patch of warmth on the floor and helping to raise the indoor temperature by a few precious degrees without you having to burn any extra fuel. The north wall, which faces the coldest winds and gets no direct sun, is left as a solid, windowless barrier. And then there is the roof itself, a marvel of insulation. It is not made of slate or tile, but of thick, tightly packed bundles of thatch. Depending on your region, this might be straw from the grain harvest, reeds gathered from the local marsh, or even tough heather from the moorlands. A well-laid thatch roof is not a thin covering. It can be several feet thick, and its dense, layered structure traps millions of tiny air pockets. This trapped air makes it an incredibly effective insulator, far superior to a simple wooden or stone roof. The steep pitch of your roof is also critical. Architectural historians debate the primary reason for the steep pitch of Northern European peasant roofs. Was it driven mainly by the functional need to shed heavy snow loads, preventing the immense weight from collapsing the structure? Or was it simply a natural architectural consequence of the Kruk frame construction method, which creates a tall frame by its very nature? For you, the reason is irrelevant. The benefit is everything. The steep sides ensure that snow, no matter how heavy the fall, slides off quickly instead of accumulating. This not only protects the structural integrity of your home, but also prevents a thick layer of snow from sitting on the roof and leaching away your precious interior heat. Every element of your home works in concert. The sunken floor borrows warmth from the earth. The wattle and daub walls provide thick insulation. The central hearth radiates heat in all directions. The low ceiling minimizes the space you need to heat. The south-facing orientation captures the winter sun, and the thick, steep, thatched roof, insulated from within by a layer of smoke, keeps that precious warmth from escaping. It is a holistic system, a single, integrated machine for living, where every timber, every daub of mud, and every wisp of smoke is part of a grand, unwritten blueprint for survival. This is not the architecture of aesthetics. It is the architecture of necessity, a design perfected over 1,000 winters of trial and error. Your ingeniously designed home is a fortress of warmth, a carefully constructed shield against the winter. But a single fortress, alone and isolated, is vulnerable. True survival in this harsh climate is not just a matter of individual architecture, but of collective action. Your household is a single gear in a much larger village machine, a complex clockwork of communal routines all synchronized to the rhythms of the sun and the cold. To make it through the winter, the entire village must move and work as one. Your life is not governed by the ticking of a mechanical clock, but by the great, slow arc of the sun across the winter sky. Daylight is a precious, fleeting commodity, and with it comes a small measure of warmth. Your village has an unwritten but strictly followed schedule designed to maximize this daily gift. The coldest, darkest hours of the early morning are spent indoors, huddled by the reawakened hearth. But as the sun climbs towards its midday peak, from roughly 10 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, the village springs to life. This is the designated time for essential outdoor labor. Your work-life balance is simple. You work when it's not lethally cold, and you huddle when it is. The 10 to 2 workday sounds great until you realize the other 20 hours are spent trying not to become a human icicle. During this 4-hour window of peak warmth, you and your neighbors emerge from your huts. The collective energy is palpable. This is the time to fetch water from the well, to haul firewood from the forest edge, to tend to the livestock in the byre. There's steamy breath misting in the cold air. The work is done efficiently and with purpose, a coordinated effort to get the maximum done with the minimum exposure. It is far more efficient for 10 families to work together to mend a fence during these hours than for one man to struggle alone in the freezing dawn. This synchronized labor is a crucial strategy for conserving human energy, a resource just as vital as firewood. As the sun begins its descent and the cold sharpens once more, the village retreats back into its earthen shells. But the collective responsibility does not end. The night brings new dangers, and one of the greatest is the silent, creeping threat of a hard frost. A sudden, severe drop in temperature overnight could kill the few overwintering animals you depend on, or damage the very structure of your homes. To guard against this, your village institutes a frost watch. This is a duty shared by all households, a rota likely organized by the village reeve, the Lord's appointed manager, to keep track of whose turn it is. You might use a quirky and wonderfully simple pre-literate accounting tool. the tally stick. A stick is marked with notches, one for each household, and then split lengthwise. The reeve keeps one half, and the other is passed from family to family. When it's your turn for the watch, you take the stick. The system is simple, fair, and impossible to cheat. When your turn comes, you spend the darkest hours of the night awake and vigilant. You pull on your warmest clothes and step out into the profound silence of the sleeping village. The snow squeaks and crunches under your boots, the sound unnaturally loud in the still, frozen air. The frost watch is the medieval version of the neighborhood watch, except instead of looking for burglars, you're looking for killer ice crystals. The pay is terrible, but the sense of impending doom really keeps you focused. You walk the narrow paths between the low-roofed huts, a lonely guardian. You check the animal buyers, making sure the extra straw you banked against the walls is holding. You listen for the distressed sounds of an animal suffering from the cold. You look at the sky, at the stars, trying to read the weather in a way your ancestors have for generations. If you sense the temperature dropping to a critical level, you are responsible for raising the alarm, waking the village to take emergency measures, like bringing a newborn lamb into the relative warmth of a human dwelling. It is a heavy responsibility, but knowing that next week, your neighbor will be watching over your animals while you sleep fosters a powerful bond of mutual dependence. This sense of shared responsibility finds its most formal expression at the end of each day. As twilight deepens, a sound rings out across the frozen landscape, the tolling of a bell from the small village church or the Lord's manor. This is the curfew bell. The word curfew comes to us from the old French couvre-feu, which literally means cover the fire. This is a mainstream and well-documented historical practice, a signal to every household that it is time to bank their hearths for the night. The primary purpose is fire prevention. In a village of flammable huts built of wood, straw, and thatch, a single unattended fire could spell doom for the entire community. The curfew bell isn't a friendly suggestion. It's the village's "go to bed and for goodness sake don't burn us all down" alarm. It's the most effective sleep aid ever invented. At its sound, in every one of the sunken homes, a family performs the same ritual. You let the fire burn down to a bed of glowing embers, then carefully shovel ash over them, tucking them in for their long, slow slumber. This synchronized act, mandated by the bell, ensures the collective safety of the village, protecting it from the greatest internal threat it faces. This web of communal routines raises a question that historians and sociologists continue to debate. Was this communalism a voluntary, bottom-up system of mutual aid, a natural and organic response to shared hardship? Or was it a more coercive, top-down system enforced by the reeve and, by extension, the lord of the manor, whose primary interest was in protecting his property, the village, and his labor force? The reality is likely a complex mixture of both. You participate in the frost watch because you care about your own livestock and trust your neighbors, but also because it is your mandated duty, and to shirk it would bring punishment. You bank your fire at the curfew bell to protect your family, but also because it is the law. Whatever its origins, this system works. It transforms a collection of individual, vulnerable families into a resilient, functioning organism. Your personal survival is inextricably linked to the discipline and cooperation of your neighbors. The village breathes as one, working in the warmth of the midday sun and hunkering down in the collective safety of the night. This shared rhythm, this village clock, is what allows your small community to endure the long, dark, and dangerous winter, year after year, generation after generation. The curfew bell has long since fallen silent, its echo swallowed by the vast, frozen darkness of the night. Your fire is banked, its bright flames now a gentle, pulsing glow of embers beneath a blanket of gray ash. The village, as one, has retreated into the shared safety of the night. You and your family are settled on the single, large wooden platform that serves as the communal bed, a space we will explore more later. You pull a coarse woolen blanket over you and your loved ones, the scent of straw from your mattress and the lingering wood smoke filling the air. You close your eyes and drift into slumber, but you do not expect or even desire to sleep for 8 solid hours. Your night has a different rhythm, a strange and ancient pattern that has been lost to the modern world. You are about to experience the 2 sleeps. You fall into your first sleep, the premier sommeil, shortly after dusk. This is a deep and heavy slumber, a welcome oblivion after a day of hard physical labor. The body, exhausted, sinks into stillness, and for about 4 hours, you are lost to the world. But then, somewhere around midnight or 1 in the morning, something remarkable happens. You wake up. This is not the jarring, anxiety-ridden wakefulness of modern insomnia. It is a gentle, peaceful, and entirely expected transition. You surface slowly, your mind calm and clear. The rest of your family might stir, or they may remain in their own deep slumber. This period of quiet wakefulness, known as the watch, can last for an hour, maybe 2, and it is a recognized and utilized part of the night. Waking up at 1 a.m. isn't a sign of stress. It's your scheduled midnight fun hour. Fun, in this case, means darning a sock or worrying about dying of plague. Different times. This midnight hour is a precious, private, and often productive time. The world outside is utterly silent, save for the moan of the wind or the distant howl of a wolf. Inside your hut, the only sound is the soft breathing of your sleeping family and the occasional gentle pop from the banked hearth. The air is cool, but not frigid, by the faint, hypnotic glow of the embers. You might perform small, quiet chores. You could mend a tear in your child's tunic, your needle moving slowly in the dim light. You might take the time to sharpen a tool, the soft rasp of a whetstone on metal, a soothing, rhythmic sound. Or you might simply tend to the fire, carefully placing a single dry log onto the embers to ensure a steady, low heat is maintained throughout the rest of the night. This is also a time for quiet social interaction. For a husband and wife, this was often the only truly private time they had. With the children asleep and the demands of the day silenced, it was an opportunity for intimate conversation, a chance to connect in a way that the bustling, communal life of the day did not allow. In fact, medieval medical texts often recommended this specific time after the first sleep had refreshed the body as the ideal moment for marital relations, believed to be most conducive to conception. For the more devout, this wakeful period was a natural time for prayer and spiritual reflection. In the profound stillness of the night, with the temporal world asleep, it felt easier to contemplate the eternal. You might murmur a few memorized prayers, your thoughts turning to God, the saints, and the state of your own soul. It is a moment of peace, a spiritual oasis in a life of constant toil. This midnight hour is a great time for productivity. You can mend a shirt, check on the goat, or contemplate the vast, crushing indifference of the universe. The possibilities are endless. This practice of segmented sleep was not a quirk of the peasantry. It was the dominant mode of sleep for virtually everyone in the pre-industrial Western world. This is a mainstream historical fact, powerfully documented by historians like A. Roger Eckertz, who found hundreds of references to first and second sleep in diaries, court records, medical books, and literature spanning centuries. From the farm laborer to the king, everyone slept this way. It was considered so normal that it rarely warranted special mention, any more than we would mention sleeping in a single block today. This pattern was even endorsed by the medical authorities of your time. Medieval medicine was largely based on the ancient Greek theory of humors. Doctors believed that a period of wakefulness between two sleeps was beneficial. They offered wonderfully quirky and specific advice on the matter. For instance, a physician might advise you to begin the night sleeping on your right side. This was thought to allow the stomach, which they pictured as a kind of pot on a fire, to warm up and begin its work of cooking the evening meal. After waking during the watch, you were then advised to turn onto your left side for the second sleep, which would allow the perfected nutrients, or chyle, to pass to the liver for the next stage of digestion. Following this advice was seen as a way to maintain humoral balance and ensure good health. So, after an hour or so of quiet activity or contemplation, you feel a natural wave of drowsiness return. You have stoked the fire, mended the sock, or simply sat and watched the embers glow. Now, you lie back down on your straw palliates, pull the blanket close, and drift off into your second sleep. This sleep is often lighter than the first, more populated with vivid dreams and strange nocturnal wanderings of the mind. It carries you through the remainder of the night until the first faint hint of dawn begins to filter through the cracks in your shuttered window, signaling the start of another day. Historians and sleep scientists continue to debate the origins of this biphasic sleep pattern. Was it the natural, default rhythm of the human body, a biological inheritance that we only suppressed with the invention of cheap, powerful artificial lighting? Or was it primarily a cultural adaptation, a sleep schedule that simply made sense in a world without evening entertainment, where the darkness was absolute and the patterns of labor were dictated by the sun? Whatever the reason for you, it is simply the way the night works. The idea of sleeping in one long, unbroken stretch would seem as strange to you as the idea of a glowing rectangle that could talk. Your descendants will invent a multi-billion-dollar industry of sleeping pills, white noise machines, and blackout curtains, all to achieve the one thing you never even aimed for: 8 solid, uninterrupted hours. For you, the night is not a single dark block of time, but a place of two shores with a calm, quiet, and reflective river of consciousness flowing between them. The first pale light of dawn seeps into your hut, and you rise from your second sleep. The air is sharp and cold, the brief warmth of the midnight hour long since faded. Before any other chore, your attention turns once again to the hearth. You stoke the embers, add fuel, and bring the fire back to life. And as soon as the flames are steady, you perform an act that is as much about heating your home as it is about preparing your breakfast. You swing the heavy iron chain over the fire and hang your great cauldron, ready for the day's pottage. This bubbling pot is the second heart of your home. Your iron pottage pot is the original slow cooker, space heater, and humidifier all in one. It's the most advanced piece of technology you own, and its main function is to bubble ominously in a corner. The large, black cauldron acts as a thermal battery. It absorbs the fire's intense heat and then radiates it out into the room slowly and steadily, a constant, gentle source of background warmth. The simmering stew itself releases plumes of warm, moist steam, which raises the humidity of the dry winter air, making it feel warmer and more comfortable on your skin and in your lungs. The very act of cooking is inseparable from the act of heating your home. The food you cook is also designed for warmth. Your diet is less farm to table and more field to pot to staying alive. There are no tasting menus, only a survival menu, and every item on it is hot and lumpy. The pottage is a thick, dense slurry of slow-burning carbohydrates from barley and oats, and fibrous, starchy vegetables like the turnips we've discussed before. This isn't light fare, it's fuel for your internal furnace. The process of digesting such a dense, high-calorie meal is thermogenic. It literally generates heat from within, raising your core body temperature and helping you to fight off the cold. Eating a bowl of hot, thick pottage is like tossing another log on your own internal fire. While the pottage pot provides a constant, low-level heat, there is another, far more intense source of warmth in your village, one that requires a communal effort, the village oven. You do not have an oven in your hut. It would be a catastrophic fire risk and require an impossible amount of fuel. Instead, once a week, the entire village participates in the ritual of baking day. This communal oven is a massive dome of stone, brick, and clay, a behemoth of thermal mass. It is a banal oven, meaning it is owned by the lord of the manor, and as with the mill, you are required by law to use it and to pay a fee for the privilege. This fee might be a coin, but more often it is a portion of your dough, a system that ensures the lord's baker is well supplied. This is a mainstream fact of the feudal system, a constant reminder of your obligations. Yet, it is also a system born of practicality. It is far more fuel efficient for the whole village to pool its resources to heat this one massive structure than for 20 individual households to maintain their own baking fires. On baking day, a huge fire is built inside the oven's chamber and allowed to burn for hours until the very stones glow with a fierce, white heat. Then, the embers and ash are swept out, and the oven is ready. The area around the oven becomes the hottest social spot in town, both literally and figuratively. You join the procession of other villagers, carrying your heavy, leavened dough. The air here is thick with a glorious, radiant heat that pushes back the winter chill like nothing else. Children play nearby, soaking up the warmth. Adults gossip and exchange news, their faces flushed and ruddy in the oven's glow. It is a weekly festival of warmth and community. Economic historians debate the primary function of this communal oven. Was it mainly a tool of feudal control, a way for the lord to extract another fee from his tenants and to prevent them from having private ovens that could be used to secretly bake bread from grain stolen from his harvest? Or was it primarily a practical measure, a strategy for fire safety and fuel efficiency that benefited the entire village? The answer, as is so often the case, is likely both. It is a tool of control that also provides a genuine, necessary service. While your iron cauldron is a prized possession, not every family has one, and in earlier times, they were even rarer. This did not stop people from cooking. A quirky and ingenious method for heating liquids before the widespread availability of metal pots involved using pot boilers or oven stones. The technique is simple but brilliant. You would place several smooth, rounded stones directly in your hearth fire. While your stew or water sat in a vessel that couldn't go on the fire, perhaps a leather-lined pit, a hollowed-out log, or a fragile earthenware pot, you would wait for the stones in the fire to become scorching hot. Using a pair of green wood tongs, you would then lift a hot stone from the fire and carefully drop it into the liquid. It would sizzle violently, releasing its stored heat instantly and bringing the liquid to a boil. You would repeat the process, cycling stones from the fire to the pot until your meal was cooked. It's a testament to human ingenuity, a way of making a hot meal even without the benefit of metallurgy. The timing of your meals is also a strategy for warmth. The main hot meal of the day is usually taken in the evening, after the sun has set and the real cold begins to creep in. The heat generated by cooking this meal helps to pre-warm your hut for the long night ahead. And consuming the hot, calorie-dense food just before bed provides your body with the fuel it needs to generate its own heat during the first deep sleep of the night. It is a carefully choreographed dance between your body, your fire, and your food, all aimed at one thing, making it to the morning. The pottage pot bubbles, the great oven radiates, and the community huddles together, sharing the warmth that means the difference between life and death. The heat from your hearth, your pottage pot, and the great communal oven is the active force that keeps you warm through the winter. But warmth is a battle fought on two fronts. The first is generating heat. The second, just as crucial, is having enough fuel to last until spring. For you, that fuel is not just the wood for your fire, but the food for your body. The bounty of the autumn harvest must be protected from the very winter it is meant to help you survive. To solve this, you once again turn to the earth, not for its warmth this time, but for its enduring, reliable cold. Your challenge is immense. You have heaps of turnips, carrots, and parsnips from your garden. You have baskets of apples from the village orchard. You have sacks of grain from the harvest. In the open air, this food would quickly freeze, rot, or be devoured by pests. You need a refrigerator, and so you build one. This is your refrigerator. It has no light that turns on when you open it. It doesn't make ice cubes. And the warranty is, if it collapses, you dig another one. But the energy efficiency is unbeatable. Just as you dug your house down to tap into the stable warmth of the subsoil, you dig your larder down to tap into its stable coolness. In the autumn, before the ground freezes solid, you undertake the laborious task of digging a storage pit. This is a deep, bell-shaped hole, narrow at the top and wider at the bottom to maximize storage space while minimizing the size of the opening through which cold or pests could enter. You might line the walls with flat stones or a thick layer of sticky clay to make it more permanent and to deter burrowing rodents. It's a constant battle between your ingenuity and a mouse's determination to eat your entire winter. It's the world's slowest, most important chess game. This simple pit is a marvel of passive refrigeration. Below the frost line, the Earth maintains a steady, year-round temperature of around 40 degrees Fahrenheit or 4 degrees Celsius, the perfect temperature for preserving root vegetables. This practice of using subterranean spaces for storage is ancient and widespread. Archaeologists have found evidence of these structures all across Europe. In some regions, like Scotland and Ireland, they evolved into complex, stone-lined underground passages and chambers known as souterrains. While your simple pit is less grand, it belongs to this same tradition of using the earth as a natural cellar. Once the pit is dug, the process of filling it is a careful science, not a haphazard dumping. You don't just toss the vegetables in. The key is to control moisture and prevent contact, as a single rotting turnip can quickly spoil its neighbors. You begin with a layer of gravel or sand at the very bottom for drainage. On top of that, you lay a thick, insulating blanket of dry straw or hay. Then comes the first layer of food. You carefully place your turnips, parsnips, and carrots, making sure they aren't bruised or damaged, as this invites decay. You don't let them touch. A quirky but effective tidbit of folk knowledge is to pack them in a dry medium like sand or moss. The sand wicks away excess moisture and keeps each vegetable isolated in its own little pocket, dramatically extending its life. After the first layer of vegetables is placed, you cover it with another thick layer of straw or sand. Then, another layer of vegetables, and so on until the pit is nearly full. The final, top layer is a very thick cap of straw, which will provide insulation from the colder air above. The pit is then sealed with a heavy, flat stone or a tight-fitting wooden lid, and a mound of earth is heaped on top to complete the seal. In the dead of winter, when the landscape is barren and your fresh food supplies have long since vanished, this pit becomes your lifeline. Opening it is a ritual. You shovel away the snow that has drifted over the mound. You heave the heavy stone lid aside. A wave of cool, intensely earthy air rises to meet you. It's the smell of life, preserved and waiting. You reach down into the darkness, through the rustling straw, and your fingers find the firm, cold flesh of a turnip. You pull out enough food for a few days, then carefully replace the straw and reseal the lid, protecting your treasure hoard. Opening your food pit is the medieval version of looking in the fridge to see what's for dinner. The answer is always the same: turnips. But today, you might find a particularly exciting looking turnip. You have to make your own fun. Your storage system can be even more sophisticated. Some pits were designed with multiple chambers. A smaller, drier annex off the main pit might be used for storing sacks of grain or dried beans, keeping them safe from the moisture that could cause them to sprout or mold. Small drainage channels might be dug to divert groundwater away from the pit. In the winter, you can even use the cold to your advantage. By piling snow high on top of the pit's cover, you can lower the internal temperature even further, turning your cool cellar into a true cold storage locker, keeping the contents in a state of suspended animation until they are needed. The existence of these structures often poses a puzzle for archaeologists, who debate the dual purpose of many of these underground finds. Were they purely for food storage, a simple, practical solution to the problem of preservation? Or did these pits and more complex souterrains also serve as hiding places, temporary refuges for your family and your most precious valuables during the frequent and violent raids or conflicts that could sweep through a region? It's possible they served both functions, their primary role as a larder doubling as a potential emergency shelter, a place of preservation for both your food and your life. This earthen cellar is a silent, unmoving partner in your struggle for survival. It is a testament to your foresight, a physical manifestation of the labor you performed in the autumn to provide for yourself in the winter. It works in perfect harmony with your sunken house and your central hearth. While the house uses the earth to keep the warmth in, the cellar uses it to keep the warmth out. It is a system of elegant simplicity, a low-technology solution to the high-stakes problem of hunger. It ensures that even when the world above is frozen and seemingly dead, there is a secret, sleeping larder of life just beneath your feet. Your subterranean cellar is a masterpiece of passive cooling, a vault protecting your winter sustenance from the elements. But this clever design creates a new and terrifying problem, the problem of the unknown. Your food supply, the key to your family's survival, is now buried in a dark, sealed pit. You cannot see it. You cannot easily inspect it. Is it staying perfectly cool and dry? Has moisture seeped in, beginning the slow, silent spread of rot? Has a hard frost penetrated your insulation, turning your precious vegetables into useless, frozen lumps? An entire season's worth of food could be spoiling just a few feet beneath you, and you might not know until it's far too late. To combat this, you rely on a series of ingenious, primitive monitoring systems. Your first line of defense is a simple, biological sensor. Your smart home system includes a state-of-the-art organic climate sensor. It's a turnip. When you first packed and sealed your storage pit in the autumn, you placed a single, perfect test turnip right on top of the final layer of straw, just beneath the heavy lid. Now, each time you open the pit to retrieve supplies, this turnip is the first thing you check. Its condition is a direct report on the health of your hidden larder. You heave the stone lid aside and reach into the cool, earthy darkness. Your fingers find the test turnip. If its skin is smooth and its flesh is firm and cold, you can breathe a sigh of relief. The conditions in the pit are stable. The food is safe. But if the turnip feels soft, spongy, or damp to the touch, a knot of anxiety tightens in your stomach. It's a sign that the temperature or humidity is too high, creating the perfect environment for mold and rot. You will need to use the food from that pit more quickly. And if your fingers touch a turnip that is rock hard and crystalline, its cells burst by ice, you know the worst has happened. The frost has breached your defenses. You must quickly assess the damage and see what, if anything, can be salvaged. This one humble turnip is your thermometer, your hydrometer, and your early warning system, all rolled into one. Beyond this, you practice a careful and deliberate rotation of your stored goods, based on a deep, traditional knowledge of how long different foods will last. It is a mental map of your winter wealth. You know that the apples must be eaten in the early winter months before their flesh turns mealy and brown. The cabbages, stored in a separate, cooler part of the pit, will last longer, but the turnips and parsnips are the true marathon runners of your cellar. You follow a strict first in, first out policy, not based on dates, but on an ingrained understanding of each food's natural lifespan. It is a constant, low-level calculation in the back of your mind, a form of resource management that is essential for making it through to the spring. You also rely on your nose. You have a highly developed olfactory literacy that has been all but lost in the modern world of sterile packaging and expiration dates. You can detect the subtle, nuanced differences in the smell of decay. You can distinguish the normal, healthy, earthy scent of your cellar from the sweet, cloying smell of bacterial rot, or the sharp, musty tang of dangerous mold. You teach this skill to your children, having them smell good, healthy roots versus slightly spoiled ones, passing down the sensory knowledge that is as important as any other skill you can give them. But even with these precautions, uncertainty remains. Some forms of spoilage are invisible. Some bacteria, like the kind that causes botulism, can flourish in improperly stored food without producing a strong off smell. Eating such food can lead to a swift and agonizing death. This is the ultimate danger of your winter larder. How do you protect your family from a threat you cannot see or smell? The answer is a grim but pragmatic piece of communal risk management: the village fool. This is where your food safety standards get a bit medieval. The standard is basically, does it smell like death? No. Okay. Does it smell a little bit like death? Right. Let's have the fool try it first. It's a system with a certain brutal efficiency. When a barrel of preserved fish is opened and seems questionable, or when a batch of cured meat from the autumn slaughter has a slightly unfamiliar sheen, this food is not immediately distributed. Instead, the village reeve or elder might call upon a designated taster. The term fool here is complex. It doesn't necessarily mean a person with a cognitive disability. It is more of a job title, a role assigned to the person who will take the foolish risk on behalf of the community. This might be an elderly person with no family to support, a vagrant or newcomer with no social standing, or perhaps a petty criminal serving their penance to the village. The village fool has the most important job no one wants. The job benefits include free food samples. The main drawback is that sometimes the free food samples are the last thing you ever eat. The ritual is simple and terrifying. The questionable food is brought out. The fool takes a small bite, chews, and swallows, while the villagers watch in silence. Then everyone waits. If, after a set period, the taster shows no signs of sickness, no stomach cramps, no vomiting, no paralysis, the food is declared safe for consumption. If the fool falls ill, the community has its answer. They have lost a portion of their precious food stores, but have been saved from a potential mass poisoning. This practice, while shocking, is an extension of a more formal and mainstream system of quality control. Many villages and towns had an official ale conner, or ale taster. This was a respected official whose job was to publicly taste every new batch of ale to ensure it was of good quality and strength, protecting the public from unscrupulous brewers. The food tasting fool is the darker, more desperate cousin of the ale conner. Historians and anthropologists debate whether this village fool taster was a formalized, official role, like the ale conner, or a more informal, ad hoc solution used only in the most dire and uncertain circumstances. Is it a genuine, documented position, or is it more of a folkloric representation, a story told to encapsulate the very real and terrifying risks of stored food in a pre-scientific age? The evidence is scarce, but the logic is sound. In a world where a single bad barrel of food could wipe out a dozen families, such a brutal but effective system of human quality control seems grimly plausible. It is a stark reminder that in your world, survival is a communal effort, and sometimes the community must sacrifice one for the safety of the many. The elaborate systems you have for storing and monitoring your food all lead to this single, crucial purpose: fueling your body to survive the winter. And the diet you consume is a masterclass in high-efficiency fuel. A stark contrast to the food philosophies of the future. The concept of a light meal would be horrifying to you. A light meal is what you eat the week before you starve. Your idea of fine dining is when the pottage is so thick the spoon stands up on its own. To generate the massive amount of internal heat required to function in a freezing climate, you must consume a staggering number of calories, often between 4,000 and 5,000 a day. You're on a 5,000 calorie a day diet. It's not a trendy, bulking season diet. It's the I'd rather not freeze to death diet. The meal plan is simple. Eat everything that doesn't run away faster than you do. This incredible energy intake is made even more necessary by the climatic reality you inhabit. You are living within a period that future historians will call the Little Ice Age. After centuries of relatively mild weather during the medieval warm period, the climate has shifted. Winters are longer, colder, and more severe. Glaciers are advancing in the north. The struggle for warmth is not just a personal battle. It's a generational fight against a cooling planet. Your high-calorie diet is a direct evolutionary response to this harsh environmental pressure. The foundation of this diet is, as always, hearty, whole grains. The coarse, dark bread made from rye and barley, and the thick pottage perpetually bubbling on your hearth are not just fillers, they are your primary energy source. These are complex carbohydrates that your body breaks down slowly, providing a steady, long-lasting supply of fuel. The sheer amount of fiber in your diet from the unprocessed bran and grains is immense, far exceeding modern dietary recommendations. Your diet is packed with fiber, whole grains, and fermented, probiotic-rich foods. If you could put it in a fancy bowl and post it on Instagram, you'd be a health food influencer. You just call it Tuesday's lumpy stuff. A quirky but important part of your grain intake is the trencher. As we've touched on before, you often use a thick, stale slice of bread as a plate. You heap your pottage or rare piece of meat onto it. The bread soaks up every last drop of precious, calorie-rich gravy, fat, and juice. And after the main meal is done, you eat the plate. This isn't just about avoiding waste. It's a clever way to consume even more of the dense, energy-packed grain that you need. Fat is the most calorie-dense nutrient available, and you seek it out wherever you can. After the autumn slaughter of a pig, the rendered fat, or lard, is a treasured commodity. You store it carefully in a clay pot. A single large spoonful stirred into the daily pottage can add hundreds of vital calories, along with a savory richness that makes the monotonous meal far more palatable. If your family is fortunate enough to own a cow, the butter you churn and the cheese you press are high-fat superfoods, providing a concentrated source of energy that is essential for surviving the cold. Even foraged nuts, like hazelnuts or walnuts, are gathered and stored, their oily kernels providing another crucial source of fat and protein. Beyond simple calories, your diet has another secret weapon: fermentation. With no way to keep food fresh, fermentation is a key method of preservation. But it has a powerful, unintended side effect. It cultivates a universe of beneficial bacteria. You eat vast quantities of these probiotic-rich foods. Your sourdough bread is leavened with a living culture of wild yeasts and lactobacilli. The cabbage from your garden is shredded, salted, and packed into crocks where it ferments into a tangy, sour dish akin to sauerkraut, teeming with healthy microbes. The milk from your cow is turned into cheese and yogurt. Even the weak ale you drink daily is a living, fermented beverage. This constant influx of probiotics supports a robust and diverse gut microbiome. In a world without antibiotics or modern medicine, a healthy gut is a critical component of your immune system. It helps you to fight off sickness and to extract the maximum amount of nutrients from the coarse food you eat. While your diet might seem primitive, it is in many ways far superior to many modern diets that are stripped of fiber and living cultures. However, this reliance on stored and preserved foods raises a question that nutritional archaeologists and historians continue to debate. While you have calories and probiotics in abundance, what about vitamins? Specifically, vitamin C, which is found primarily in fresh fruits and vegetables. Did the months-long lack of fresh produce during the winter lead to widespread chronic deficiencies like scurvy? Or did stored root vegetables like turnips, which contain a modest amount of vitamin C, along with preserved foods like sauerkraut, provide just enough of the crucial vitamin to keep acute deficiency at bay? The evidence from skeletal remains is ambiguous. It's likely you and your family lived on the edge of deficiency for much of the winter, strong enough to work, but perhaps suffering from the low-level ailments, sore joints, slow-healing wounds, weakened gums that come with a lack of fresh food. But for the primary task at hand, generating enough heat to stay alive, your diet is a stunning success. It is a finely tuned system, perfected over centuries, for converting the local landscape into bodily warmth. Every meal is a strategic deposit into your energy bank, ensuring your internal furnace never runs out of fuel. It is a diet that is heavy, fatty, fibrous, and fermented, a world away from the lean, fresh, and varied foods of the future. But it is precisely what your body needs, in your time, in your place, to see the sun rise on another cold, winter morning. Your belly is full of a hot, dense, high-calorie meal. Your internal furnace is stoked for the night. The fire on the hearth is banked, a sleeping red heart radiating a gentle warmth. Your sunken home is sealed against the wind, its thick walls a shield against the frost. Every preparation has been made. Now comes the final, most ancient, and most intimate strategy for survival: the conservation of body heat. You will not face the long, cold night alone in a separate bed. The very concept is a dangerous absurdity. The entire family will now merge into a single, heat-sharing unit. Your family's sleeping arrangement is less bed and more human Tetris. The goal is to fit everyone together so perfectly that no heat can escape. Along one wall of your hut is a low, wide wooden platform, raised slightly off the cold earth floor. This is covered with a deep, insulating layer of dry straw or bracken, and on top of that, a large linen sack, also stuffed with straw, which serves as a communal mattress or palliasse. This is the family bed. You orchestrate the nightly arrangement with practiced care. This is the principle of huddling, a behavior seen in countless species from penguins to puppies, and for good reason. A single human body radiates heat out in all directions, losing it to the cold air. But when multiple bodies are pressed together, the exposed surface area is drastically reduced. You are no longer heating the room. You are simply heating each other. This simple act of huddling can raise the ambient temperature within the sleeping pile by as much as 8 degrees Celsius, or about 14 degrees Fahrenheit. It is the difference between a night of shivering misery and one of genuine, restorative sleep. The arrangement is strategic. The youngest and most vulnerable children, who lose heat the fastest, are placed in the protected center of the pile. They are sandwiched between the warm bodies of their parents and older siblings, a human insulation of flesh and bone. You and your spouse take the outer positions, acting as the windbreaks for the unit. Any blankets you own, perhaps a single, coarse woolen blanket or a sheepskin, are not for individuals, but are pulled over the entire group. Even the family dog, if you are fortunate enough to have one, will burrow into the pile, adding its own small furnace to the collective warmth. A quirky but useful tool you might employ is the bed staff. This is a sturdy wooden pole that you can tuck into holes drilled in the side of the bed platform. It stands upright and helps to hold the weight of the heavy blankets and skins off of you, creating a small, tent-like pocket of warm air and preventing the bedding from sliding off the crowded platform during the night. You might not even lie fully flat. Many families sleep in a semi-reclined position, propped up on straw-filled bolsters against the wall. This is partly due to the smoky air. It is often easier to breathe when your head is elevated, and partly due to a lingering superstition that to lie perfectly flat is to mimic the posture of a corpse in a coffin. Before settling into your first sleep, you perform the final duty of the day. You are the sleep inspector. This isn't an official title, but an assumed parental role. You check the formation, ensuring everyone is packed tightly together. You adjust the shared blanket, tucking it in around the edges to seal out drafts. You make sure a child hasn't wriggled their way to the cold outer edge. It's a position of great responsibility and mostly involves telling your son to stop kicking you in his sleep. Some problems are timeless. Once you are satisfied that the human furnace is operating at maximum efficiency, you can finally relax. This nightly huddle is the ultimate expression of your family as a single, interdependent organism. The concept of a private bedroom is a few centuries away. For you, privacy is being able to have a thought that nobody else hears. It's a low bar. The idea of each child having their own room would seem not just impossibly extravagant, but dangerously foolish. Why would you isolate a source of heat? Why would you break the unit apart? This was not just a peasant custom. Communal sleeping was the norm across society. Travelers at an inn would share beds with strangers, and servants in a great house would sleep on pallets in a common hall. The private bedroom is one of the great luxuries of the modern age. Social historians debate the psychological impact of this lifelong communal sleeping. Did the constant physical closeness foster an unbreakable sense of family unity, security, and emotional intimacy? Or did the complete and utter lack of privacy create its own set of underlying social tensions and hinder the development of individual identity as your descendants will understand it? For you, this is not a matter for debate. It is simply life. The warmth of your child's back pressed against yours is a comfort, a reassurance that you are all together, all accounted for, all weathering the same storm. And so you lie there, in the heart of your sunken home, in the center of your sleeping family, a single warm island in an ocean of cold. You are warmed by the earth below you, the thick thatch above you, the banked embers beside you, and the living bodies all around you. Every system, from the architecture of your house to the schedule of your village to the food in your belly, has led to this moment, a safe, warm passage through the darkest hours of the night. And as you settle into that deep, communal warmth, you can feel our journey together coming to its end. The sensation of the coarse straw beneath you and the weight of the shared blanket upon you can now begin to soften, melting into the familiar comfort of your own bed. The low, flickering glow of the banked embers fades from your mind's eye, replaced by the gentle darkness of your own quiet room. Let the biting wind and the anxieties of that distant, frozen world recede, leaving behind only a quiet appreciation for the effortless warmth that surrounds you now. There is no frost watch to stand, no fear of the food stores running low, no need to huddle against the cold for survival. The struggles of that long-ago peasant were immense, their ingenuity born from a deep and demanding necessity. You can release the burden of their world and hold on to only the feeling of peace and security. Allow the gentle rhythm of your own breathing to be your only guide now, as it draws you away from the past and deeper into the soft, welcoming stillness of the present moment. Let your mind become calm and clear, letting go of all thought and drifting gently down into a peaceful and restorative sleep. End of script.